Hello everybody, Starshot Ryan here to welcome you back to my Let's Play of Legend of Heroes Trail in the Sky. Where we'll be continuing the story and the quest and getting through the tutorial and everything. So let's go ahead and talk to Aina here to get our quest started. These are very important, so make sure not to lose them. Got a notebook. Bracer notebooks serve as the official way to record the status of your current jobs. Also, anything you may hear or anything that you may find and where, these kinds of trivial things can often become clues. No matter how insignificant something may seem, always write it down. Understood! Crap, this sounds like it's gonna be a pain. Oh? Please tell me it was my ears playing tricks on me, because I swear I only got one response. I'm sure there were two. Keeping an accurate account of events is an important duty for all bracers. So get with the program and stop trying to make this out to be more than it really is, Estelle. Okay, I got it. Make sure you do. Alright then, let's begin. Look over by the door, you can see that there's a bulletin board standing there. First, I want you to go and check the job description posted there. And apparently where the bulletin board is approached, an exploration point, tongue-tied today, mark will appear. Pressing the OK button will display the job list. By selecting the job names on the list, you can view their details. You can see that the programmers and game designers were very thorough in trying to make sure we understood everything there was to know about this game. So, for the most part, it's a bit difficult to get lost in it. But let's go ahead and check out our first quest. Apparently, training retrieval. Our client is Scheherazade. Our pay is 500 Mir, which is, I guess, is pretty nice. Of course, I'm not familiar with the exchange rate from dollars to Mira. And the training will involve searching the sewers beneath Roland and bringing back the contents of a chest. And we need to see Scheherazade for details. Well, let's go ahead and accept it then. And now that it tells us that the details of the job have been confirmed on the bulletin board and other important events will be automatically recorded in the Bracer book. And the notebook can be easily found by clicking on the Books tab of the Items menu, and it can also be accessed by configuring a Bracer book shortcut button to the Configuration menu. Very good. It looks like you were able to see what was posted without any trouble. Checking the bulletin board is one of the most basic functions a Bracer performs on their job. Checking regularly to see whether or not there are any urgent tasks which need immediate attention is also an important duty for bracers. Man, all this talk about duty is starting to cramp my style. Sure, there are a lot of rules to follow, but there's an equal level of responsibility in the jobs themselves. I think being a bracer calls for much more than just someone with a half-hearted attitude. I guess you're right. I'll just have to be more motivated. Is that so? Had a change of heart, have you? I didn't know they messed up there with the spelling. You betcha! Well, before all that motivation sneaks off somewhere, let's get to work on your next task. What will we be doing this time? We'll be heading across the street to Mr. Melder's Orbal factory and learning about how to use its services. He has graciously taken time out of his work schedule to explain things to make sure to be on your best behavior. Okay. And we've automatically shown up here. Isn't that convenient? Here is where you will learn how to use an orbital factory's services. An Orbal factory, you can modify your orbments and synthesize support quartz in order to use Orbal arts. Arts have a wide range of effects, and if mastered, can be extremely helpful. The Bracer's business is a pretty risky occupation, so the Guild has had a long-standing relationship with these Orbal factories. Anyway, this is about as much as I can explain. I'll leave the technical details to the expert. So, Mr. Melder, if you wouldn't mind taking over from here. No problem. Leave everything to me. So, what is it you would like to know about? Well, since we're pretty much playing this from a long time ago, we'll start with learning about orbments. Orbments are mechanical devices which exhibit an array of effects through the installation of various types of quartz. By definition, that means that lights, airship engines, and so on are also types of orbments. However, the ones we'll be discussing today are battle orbments, which enhance the user's physical abilities and make it possible to use magic. Since each orbment is adjusted to match the owner's personal aptitude, the structures for these devices also differ for each owner. Simply put, the shape of the fixed elemental slots and lines which connect them vary. At any rate, that's the layman's explanation. In order to install quartz, you must first have an open slot. By default, the central slot is open, but the other slots may be opened at an orbital factory, like this. It'll take a fair amount of seepth, too. EP, which is needed for magic, will also see a max increase according to the number of open slots. I recommend opening them all as soon as possible. So what is it that you would like to know about? And now for orbital arts. Simply put, orbital arts are magic which can be discharged exclusively through the use of battle orbments. In other words, a number of peculiar effects can be produced by using the orbital energy stored within these mechanical devices. Since orbital arts can be a mouthful, they are mostly universally referred to as arts. Probably ought to have been called that from the get-go. He's the smart one, isn't he? There are several types of arts, but in order to be able to use them, their corresponding quartz must first be synthesized at an orbital factory. Orbments are also set up so that once a particular quartz is installed into a slot, the owner will be able to use those arts. The type of arts one can use also changes depending on the elemental value and the combination of installed quartz. Basically, if you want to use water arts, all you have to do is install quartz with a water elemental value. In reality, orbments are much more complex than what I have described, but I think this information should suffice for now. So what is that you would like to know? Quartz are circuits made from seepth. Quartz have a vast number of effects and raise their owner's abilities while simultaneously making it possible for them to use arts. However, you will not be able to harness any of these effects until quartz has been installed into a slot. However, there are also fixed slots in which only a certain type of elemental quartz can be installed. This being the case, when you synthesize a new quartz, be sure to check your orbments and decide where you'll be installing it ahead of time. We got the cycle again. Seep. Seeps are fragments of septum which are dropped by monsters. They are divided into 7 types: earth, water, fire, wind, time, space, and mirage. I find mirage a bit of a weird element to have in this game, but I guess it works for them if they decide to translate it that way. Seeps can be exchanged for mirror almost anywhere, but at the orbital factory it can be used to synthesize quartz and to open orbment slots in which to install the synthesized quartz. And that's about all we really need to know for now. It looks like Mr. Melders has answered all your questions. If there's nothing else, then let's have you both try and use the services here. For that, you're going to need some seepth. And you receive several types of elemental seepth, which is always handy to have. We'll be needing a lot more of it in the future, though. With that amount, you two should be able to synthesize a few quartz. Now, I want you to begin by first making an elemental quartz that will work with each of your particular orbments. In your case, Estelle, any elemental quartz is okay, but for you, Joshua, it has to be a time elemental quartz. Normally, at a shop, you would be able to exchange seepth for mirror, but with this training, you will not be able to use this service. And all I have to do is approach the counter, a talk mark will appear, and then pressing OK will list a display of options with select modify or trade to use the orbital factory services. So let's go ahead and get started. And talk, and doing Hi there, it looks like you two are doing well in your training. If you'd like to modify your orbments, please select the modify/trade services. Thanks for clarifying. So let's go ahead and go into our slots for Ella first. When it comes to selecting which orbments to go, I usually start with just opening the closest ones that I can finish opening first before going to the other side. But, never mind. It looks like I don't have enough Seath to open any right now. But I do at least have some open already anyway, so I need to make some quartz. And let's go ahead and get some HP or some water for Estelle. And then of course get some action. And then we can either go with some fire or defense, since we should be able to open up a slot after making use of these services for the first time. So, but I'll just save that for later. Alright, it looks like you were able to synthesize one. Next, I want you to increase the arts you can use. Now install a quartz into your orbments so that you can use both recovery and attack arts. And then it goes on to explain that we can access the orbments screen by going into our menu for the orbments tab. So let's go ahead and check that out. And go ahead and install our quartz to our main character Estelle here. And go ahead and give her HP 1. Pretty much, you know, any water quartz you find will always give you, most of the time, give you a tier, which is your main heal in this game, which is very important, especially for a lot of the battles, depending on how many enemies you'll be facing throughout the adventure, which will definitely be a lot. And then, of course, we have Joshua here, who will get his time-only quartz added in, which will give him Clock Up, which just acts as a haste. If you're familiar with the haste, it'll speed up your character's movement and action so that he'll be able to attack faster. And then Soul Blur, which will be a time element mana attack that you will be able to use against enemies. So exit out and talk to her. We got both recovery and attack art set up. If you balance your arts out between each other like you've done here, it should make dealing with monsters much easier. Additionally, your Bracer notebooks contain information about which quartz allow you to use which arts. If you'd like to use more powerful arts, check out the arts and quartz chart in your Bracer notebook and find something that works for you. Alright, our training here is almost finished. Last of all, I'm going to have one of you open a new slot in your orbments. The more slots you have available to you, the broader range of choices you'll have. Since EP, which is consumed by using arts, can have its max value increased by opening up slots, it'd be a good idea to open them all early on. Now I want you to use this Seath and open a slot on each of your orbments. Go ahead and decide which slots you're going to open. So let's go ahead and go back to the modify and go ahead to slots. You know, as I said before, I'll go ahead and open these two first. You know, for the most part, just about any, but you can choose which way you want to go for yourself. As far as I remember, there's no advantage to opening one over the other as long as they, since they all give you the option to install any quartz available. And looks like that's about it from what we got. Since your central slot is not limited to a particular elemental, you are free to install any type of quartz you like. This concludes your training here at the Orbital Factory. Sorry for skipping that last part, but it was just her saying that, you know, you completed opening up your slot and, you know, that now it's time to move on to what you've both been waiting for, the qualification test. Pardon? Did you just say test? You can't honestly tell me that you forgot about the test again, can you? Didn't I remind you just this morning? Now that you mention it, I vaguely remember some sort of talk along those lines at the breakfast table. Sometimes I fear for the future of the Bracer Guild and humanity. Oh well, no sense in worrying about that now. Let's head over to the testing area. You mean like now? I don't know if I'm ready for... How about a little less yapping and a little more walking? Joshua, help me! Mr. Melders, Freddy, thank you for all your help. Don't mention it, and good luck with that test of yours. We'll be rooting for you. I'm going to remember that you left me high and dry like this, Joshua. All your training has finally come down to this. Your qualification test will begin here. I expect to see you both use what you've learned up to this point. Understood. What's wrong, Estelle? Shihara? What now? I was kind of wondering, but is there not going to be a paper test or something? Did Cassius drop you on your head as a child or something? You just read what it said on the bulletin board not that long ago, right? Yeah, and? And I even made you jot down what you read in your Bracer notebooks, unless you forgot that too. I'm pretty sure the job listing mentions searching for and retrieving an item from the sewers. Ringing any bells yet? What a relief! Oh, Divine... just forgive me if I pronounce this incorrectly. Adios. Adios. I give thanks to thee for thy infinite grace in bestowing upon us such wonderful gifts as sewers. So what you're really saying is that you thought it was a paper test. No wonder you were acting all crazy back at the Orbital factory. Ah, I can already feel the nostalgia. All those horrible days stuck in a classroom are starting to feel like grand memories indeed. I'm really starting to wonder if we'll even be able to graduate at all. What's wrong with you? Why do you have to go and say something like that when I'm trying to reminisce about positive things? Alright, that's enough jabbering, you two. This is supposed to be a test, so how about the both of you try to at least look a little anxious? Just so you know though, if you do happen to flunk the test, you don't even want to imagine the kind of homework I have in store for you, for the both of you. We'll be fine. Just tell us what you want us to do and let us loose. Well, if you're so confident, then how about proving that you're not just blowing hot air with the results of your test? Anyway, as you both saw on the bulletin board, this test will be search conducted in Roland's sewers. Your objective is to retrieve the contents of a chest which have been placed somewhere within that area. The layout of the sewers is extremely simple, so you don't need to worry about getting lost either. However, there are real living, breathing monsters down there, so if you get careless and let down your guard, you will be sorry. Also, let me give you this before I forget. Nice, some tear bombs, more healing items, and a monster's guide. What's this book for? It's called a monster's guide, and it's used to record information about monsters and other opponents you meet. Whenever you figure out an opponent's attribute, you should make an immediate note of it in there. Sounds pretty straightforward to me. He who controls the flow of information controls the tide of battle, right? That's exactly what I'm saying. You got a really good head on your shoulders, Joshua. That's some pretty useful advice. Thanks for the tip, Shihara. We'll put it to good use. Alrighty then, let's get pumped and knock out this test. Let's. Don't forget though, this is an exam. We should make sure we treat it as such. And here we are, finally in the sewers, ready to explore our first mini-dungeon. So, I'll go over here to this side, which, there appears to be a recovery point set up here, as I was about to explain. Let's use it for our HP and EP become low before engaging in any further battles. And then, of course, the game telling us that these stations are recovery points set up in dangerous areas. And as the recovery point is approached, a mark will appear and two choices will be displayed by pressing OK. and selecting the rest, and we'll restore all of our HP and EP. Very important to do that before any boss or dungeon you start to plan through, just in case you get low. Because if you do die, you will have to reload your save. Sounds like a plan to me. I'll just go ahead and get this started. You see, he kind of does a nice chime to say we've rested. And let's go ahead and meet our first enemy. Monster at 12 o'clock. Be careful not to let them take advantage of your blind side. Got it. Thankfully, we can't see them from far away, but they will become visible as we approach them. And the conditions of the start of the battle will depend on how we're engaged. And engagement from behind is, of course, advantageous, while being attacked by an enemy from behind is disadvantageous. Usually meaning that if you're caught from behind, you'll be surrounded on all sides from the monsters, which is always a bad situation since you don't want the monsters to be able to get an easy attack in. And then advantageous because we'll be able to attack right away. We'll have the first move and should hopefully be close enough to make that as we enter the battle map here. And it even gives us some hints as to tell us more about the battle system and how everything works. The battle order bar indicates who attacks first. It starts from the top and moves down. So pretty much as you can see here, we have our side menu here describing everything we can do. So we'll go ahead and do attack as our first option. And here the game explains to us that we'll move as well as we attack an enemy unless we're not close enough. And it will show us, highlight an area indicating the distance that we can move, and selecting the target to see if we can attack them. And that if it is out of range, then we'll go as close as we can, but we won't be able to hit them or attack them until we get over to them in the next turn. And you can see here in the corner, left-hand corner here, it gives us the information, its name, Dirty Rat, HP, the condition, and the elemental efficiency, which will become more important as we continue on in the game. But for now, we'll just go ahead and attack our enemy here. And as you can see, we do quite a bit of damage, and they just drop some nice sieve thrusts. And we'll now, as you can see, as I try to attack the enemy, it shows how far I can attack, but we're not close enough, but I'll just go ahead and have him move over here. And that the enemies won't move themselves, since this is just the tutorial battle, but I'll just move this character for now. And now that I'm close enough, I can finally attack our next enemy. And move her next, but she's still not close enough. So we'll end up having Joshua here finish off our Dirty Rat. And bam! You're dead.
That's that then. Let's move out.
Yeah, you don't normally hear a voice actor from any of the characters in this game, except for these sound bites at the end of a battle. And thankfully we got some nice experience and letting us know when we'll get our next level. Along with what sieve we just earned for this battle. That, of course, will be very important. And then Juicy Bone is pretty much just an item that we'll not have much use for until later on in the game. So, but as you can see here, yeah, we'll continue on, and now face our next enemy here. Some flying butterflies, apparently. Here comes some more. Depending on the enemy, some physical attacks may be ineffective. Let's use arts, not physical attacks. Okay. And as you can see, the game tells us here that arts are effective at enemies that are good at avoiding physical attacks and are long range, so it's possible to be able to attack them from far away, but they require time to cast. And that AP is also consumed, and it won't be recovered unless we rest at inns, hotels, or charging stations, or use items, just like most RPGs. And another hint here, a lot of the same we just read before, that weapons won't have much effect against these enemies, so we should focus on just using our arts. And that depending on the element the enemy's weak against, should be the main component of what art you will use and how effective it is against certain enemies. So for example, if I go ahead and use our water arts here, Aqua Bleed, against our Moth Cluster here, you can see it has 8 HP, and that its efficiency, or efficacy, is 100%, so it'll pretty much just do as much damage as it would normally do any other time. And then we'll go ahead and have our friend Joshua here use his Soul Blur, which emits a time-space shaking pulse. And I'll go ahead and target it against the other enemy. And now we wait. And now for our magic. Destructo Disc! This is kind of what it reminds me of, seeing it that way. And Aqua Bleed, I probably would imagine, is just a water gun. And more XP! Still not gonna level up this way, during this quest though. And some more seeps, and a crispy onion, which I believe can be used as a cooking item, when we'll learn later that we can actually make use of some of these items. But for now, we'll just focus on the battles here. Still, let's try using crafts this time around. Since crafts have other effects besides just dealing out damage, they're worth a shot. Roger that. Crafts are pretty much special abilities, but they are called crafts in this game, and they make use of CP. But you can only gain CP when you deal out damage or receive it during battle. But they can be utilized fairly quickly during your turn, and don't have any charge times like arts do. And they will have a broad range of effects depending on which character you have in your party. We will get more characters as the game goes on, but yeah, for the most of the game you'll play with Estelle and Joshua. So let's go ahead and do some damage in. And I'll go ahead and make use of Dual Strike as one of my crafts, which will do 2 damage, and I'm close enough to Dirty Rat, so I'll go ahead and deal it to him. Most abilities are usually fairly powerful, especially for Joshua. Most of the time he can take out enemies using his special craft, so it's better to focus on them. As you can see there, you know, about 110 damage, which is pretty good for these Dirty Rats. And then we'll just go ahead and do attack to finish off this enemy here, since he's already down to 20. Another battle won.
Let's move out.
And let's see, check out this area here, and we get to see our very first chest. But it won't be the one we finished for the quest just yet. We found a retrieving bomb. Those are really good. They, let's see. Retrieving bomb is a salve which cures KO and heals 100 HP. Very useful. You don't get too many of these, and they can be pretty expensive. So it's best to try and use these as sparingly as possible. And then, if you look at the treasure chest, you can see it say something. This chest is empty because of you. Nice work, hero. One of the best parts of this game I found is that all the chests you find in this game will have something to say after you've opened them. So make sure to take a look at each chest, and I'll try going through and finding most of them when I can. So let's go ahead and face our next battle. Oh, what a surprise, another creepy thing. I wish there was an easier way to take care of them. One blow using an S-Craft or S-Break should do the trick for just about any enemy. The catch is our CP has to be at least 100 to pull off one of these moves. And of course they reiterate what Joshua just said. But the, of course, big thing is that we can immediately use them and ignore the battle order. So it's very important to understand when's the best time to release these S-Crafts or S-Breaks. But of course, we need to first be able to have enough, so let's go ahead and get a hit in. And as you can see, now it's telling us that we've reached the max that we need. But you can hold out a bit longer if you want to have 200 CP, which will matter for more advanced S breaks, but for just what we have right now, all we need is 100. And then of course any CP we have left over will be saved and rolled over to the next time. Almost forgot I had to select it right away. I'll go ahead and target the farthest away enemy so we don't have to waste any turns trying to move to him to attack. Dang, hits really hard, doesn't it? And we'll go ahead and finish off Dirty Rat here, and then that should give his Dust Break and S Break, and then we'll go ahead and use it and take care of the Dirty Rat right now. And another one bites the dust.
Alright, we're good to go.
So yeah, in the options menu, you can select to not have the voices if you don't want to, but I'm fine having them there since they provide a nice little touch in, you know, what you think the character might say if he just finished up a battle. And we go across the bridge and over here to our last enemy, and a gate that you can go over there if you want, but it's not going to lead you anywhere. So that's the treasure chest we're after, huh? If we made it this far, the rest is gonna be a piece of cake. Seems like we got a little breathing room at least. Let's pay close attention to our battle order this time. There should be a number of ways to get more mileage out of our actions. And then, pretty much as it says, there are several bonuses which can be allotted during turns. And that turn bonuses have the same effect regardless of whether they are allotted to an ally or an enemy. So using S breaks to ignore the battle order makes it easy to jump in and strip an enemy of their turn bonuses. These can help out here and there, but not overly paramount. But it is, of course, a good to keep an eye on the battle order and see kind of what benefits happen. As you can see, we get some heals, we get some Seath up, which is always really good to do. So let's go ahead and take care of our moths here, since we won't be able to do much against them physically, and they'll pretty much die as soon as we make use of it, which will free up the turn order a bit, and we'll have less enemies to deal with. And since no one's really lost any health, there's no worry about the bonuses. But I'll probably go ahead and heal our friend Joshua here, so hopefully he doesn't die in the next turn. So I could use arts here to go ahead and heal him, but I don't want to. And I can go ahead and check to see if it'll happen before. But looks like it's his turn, so I'll just go ahead and use an item to heal him up for now, so he doesn't get targeted by the enemy here. And then we'll just go ahead and start pummeling our dirty rats here and take care of them right away. So this is pretty much part of the game where once you have things figured out, you do your best to try and figure out the best way to make use of your turns. You know, I mostly focus on taking care of any enemies that are close. Then for any far away enemies, I just make use of our arts here, so I don't have to waste turns moving all the way over just to take care of them. Destructo Disc! Water gun! Yep, another one is done, and let's move on. And of course that provided some really good seeds. Pretty much the more enemies you fight, the more seeds you get. And let's go ahead and check our chest here. Found a small box. That's weird. There's a couple of boxes inside the treasure chest. The fact that there's not just one but two is kind of interesting too. Wonder what's inside. Remember, Estelle, our mission is to search and retrieve only. I'm pretty sure looking inside those boxes doesn't fall under our mission's objective. You're no fun at all, Joshua. This has nothing to do with our mission. It's what I like to call good, honest curiosity. You know, we're the only ones down here. We can get away with a teensy-weensy peek, right? If you feel like flunking today's test, then by all means be my guest. Did you just say the F word? Yep. Opening one of these boxes could result in an automatic fail for the both of us. If this were a real job, the contents of those boxes would belong to the client, and as long as they were nothing illegal, we would have no rights to open them. I know you're right, Joshua, but I just can't help myself. If you absolutely have to know what's inside, why not ask Miss Shahara when we get back? But for now, we need to focus on getting out of here. Alright. And let's see what our treasure chest has to say for us now. By looking inside this chest again, you flunk. Just kidding. Yeah, that would be pretty mean. It's too bad the characters don't react to it. But I think this looks like a good time to stop for now. So I'll go ahead and end the video right here, and see you next time.